morning. Today is day 8, I believe, of Walk, Run, Soar. And today is going to be a two-parter. In between doing these videos today, I will be doing a whole ton of chores. It's my, Sadie is at doggy day camp to play with other dogs her size day, and I always do chores. Lots of chores that I have a hard time doing when I am watching 2 dogs. So, let's get to it. And it's supposed to be a beautiful day today. So I'm gonna enjoy the sunshine before it gets really, really cold this weekend. So it's day 8, we're doing number 9 in the book, Seasoned with Salt. And the verse that she shares is from the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5, verse 13. You are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot as worthless. So she really talks about how important, and like I've mentioned before with several things, if you've been running for any period of time, you know how important salt is to your training. So she talks about how we can sweat out as much as 3,000 milligrams in an hour of hard training. Hold, please. Sorry, that was my other dog. I think he misses our bigger puppy when she's not here. Anyway, so she talks about how we can sweat out as much as 3,000 milligrams of salt in an hour of hard training, and the recommended daily allowance is 2,300 milligrams. But basically, our body needs the salt. Our cells need it. It helps us retain water, which like we talked about how important water is, salt helps us retain that water for running. She talks about how she used to get really bad headaches after long runs, and her husband Sean recommended doing salt tablets before, during a run. And she also shares that something that she's learned is in taking a salty snack like potato chips or a bowl of chicken noodle soup after a long run helps with recovery and not getting that headache. And just like the verse shared at the beginning, Jesus talks about how as believers we are to be salt and light in the world. By encouraging and teaching, the disciples that he was speaking with could help preserve their faith. Friend, how can you add flavor and bring value to your family and community? How can you invest in your relationship with Jesus Christ and preserve a godly lifestyle? How can you be salt and light to the world around you? So this one's, really simple, but it does, I think, require sometimes a little bit of work on our part to kind of look outside ourselves and pay attention to what's going on around us and how we can encourage and touch others and bring that flavor to life that God wants us to be in our community. I know personally there's been times where I've been out and there's you get the prick in your spirit, like, hey, you should go talk to that person, see if they're doing okay, or you should go such and such. I'm sure a lot of you have experienced that, but then you just don't, because it might be weird or awkward. I know at If Gathering, that was one of the speakers was talking about just embrace the awkward. It's going to be awkward to share your faith and to do anything that's goes deeper than surface level conversation, but just to embrace it because it's so important. And it's gonna be weird because I think it's a very vulnerable part. That's what I always think. It's a very vulnerable part of our lives because it has to do with our heart and our souls, and not just surface. Hey, how you doing? Oh, great. Okay, see you later. It goes much deeper than that, and it makes you feel vulnerable. Her faith step, which I thought was kind of interesting, she recommends sprinkling a few grains of salt in your palm and lick it. And as you're noticing the taste of that salt, to think about how you can add that flavor to your community, like I just said. And maybe write a list of things that come to mind. God will give you those actions that he would love for you to take, if we just pay attention. Our inspirational quote is from Haruki, not going to try to say the last name, it's a Japanese writer. Most runners run not because they want to live longer, but because they want to live life to the fullest. Very true. In our training notes from Coach Sean, was pretty much what I've already shared about, you know, really paying attention to when you're intaking those salty foods, and maybe adding a salt tablet when you're going out for those long runs. Because I know I try to do that salty thing too before, like a day before, because I know it helps my body retain that water. Like I like to do my noon electrolytes. Love noon electrolytes. None, however you pronounce it. Big fan of those, of adding those. And I know leading up to the Disney races, I drank the vitamin and immunity ones for a week leading up to the race, and then obviously while I was there that weekend. And never felt thirsty, never felt dehydrated. So a very simple concept for this morning for part one is to be the salt and the light in your community to the people around you. I know that this is when I was younger. I heard a pastor giving a sermon about the verse in the Bible where, you know, Jesus tells us to love our neighbor, and then they ask, who is your neighbor? And I can't remember if it was like, if you go back to the original translation, what the word meant, but it something to the effect of, it really just meant the person that is next to you in that moment. So it's not like the person that just lives next door, that's my neighbor and that's the only person I'm supposed to worry about. But whenever I am out, my neighbor is whoever is there in that same area with me. So I always try to think about that, be like, you know, God wants me to love my neighbor and encourage and be salt and light to these people. It's wherever I am in that moment. So maybe today, try to find ways to encourage somebody, offer a smile, and I tell them to have a good day, and embrace the awkward, and share God's love with them. So I will see you this afternoon for part two. Hope you're having a great day today.